Hello, it's Damian from the future, and this is part 2 of a long series of Fate videos that I made, the first of which you can watch here. The backstory is that I made the colossally dumb decision to watch every single Fate anime ever made. Yes, every single one. In chronological release order, too. Here is part 2 of said series. Enjoy, I guess. The next anime we are watching is one you probably have not heard of, especially if you're a new Fate fan who just hopped on after Ufotable took over the franchise. It's called Fate Prototype, and it's an animated short created by Studio Lercha. I think, don't quote me, I'm talking off the top right now. Basically, they packaged it with the physical release of Carnival Phantasm. Remember buying actual DVDs and stuff? Damn, that's crazy. Some of y'all kids never experienced buying physical anime. I'm sure most people have watched like a DVD at some point of like a Western movie, but most of y'all youngins probably have only watched anime online through like streaming, and I don't know, that's kind of wild to me. But I'm getting sidetracked. Fate Prototype is basically Nasu's original concept for Fate Stay Night, hence Fate Prototype, or as some call it, Fate Origin. It's got some familiar Fate elements, but a lot of it is just completely new stuff, so I won't go too deep into it. I mean, it's only like a 15-minute short, so you can go watch it yourself, but I'll talk about it a bit because I think it's really interesting. The first thing to note is that the essential structure of Fate Prototype is the same as the good old Fate we know and love. Please refer to my in-depth scientific chart on how the Holy Grail War works from last video so you can understand how this works. It's all the same here, right? People want the Holy Grail, so they summon servants to fight for it, except instead of Shiro Emiya, we have Ayaka Saju. Saju. Ayaka. Right off the bat, you could see that she's pretty different from our boy Shiro, right? She's meek and insecure and has a complex about her magical ability. At the time, it was thought that she wouldn't really appeal to the target demographic of Fate, so she was replaced by the more hot-blooded, shonen-y type Shiro. But here in Fate Prototype, she's our main character, and we find out that the story takes place 8 years after the first Grail War, in which her father and older sister were killed trying to win the Grail. Because of this, she wants nothing to do with the Holy Grail War and tries to live as normal of a life as possible. So already we can see a bunch of stuff you should be familiar with, right? You know, the Grail War, servants, and hey, they even mention Heaven's Feel, which we haven't even gotten to in this video series yet, so I guess there's that. But anyway, Ayaka gets attacked by these weird dogs for some reason, and then this dude who's supposed to be a prototype Lancer comes in to jump her too. And here we have the quintessential Fate scene where Saber is summoned to save the protagonist at the last second. Only this time, instead of hot blonde girl Saber, we have hot blonde guy Saber. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Fate Prototype basically has all the important Fate elements. Everyone always simps for Saber. Saber and Archer always gotta be duking it out. At least one, if not most of the masters have to be complete weirdos or borderline psychopaths. The Grail has to be corrupted, and Saber has to yell out Excalibur at some point. The rest of the anime short functions as basically like a trailer, right? We see some of the other masters, including a prototype Rin Tosaka named Misaya Reirokan. And she's the Master of Lancer. She's also a lot more like Ara than the Rin we know and love, but I don't know how to feel about that, but I think I like it. Also present in Fate Prototype is the time-honored Fate tradition of characters with a creepy sibling complex. In Fate, we obviously have Ilya's field, but in Fate Prototype, we have Ayaka's presumed dead sister Monica, who was Saber's master in the first Holy Grail War. But now she's back, resurrected by the Grail, and she's weirdly in love with Saber, and she also wants to kill her sister because why not? I don't know, to me, Fate Prototype is interesting in the same way looking at Ralph McQuarrie's original Star Wars concept art is interesting. We can go on all day about these what ifs and oh, it would have better if they kept this idea or that idea or this character design, and you know, there actually have been talks about making this into its own anime series, like a full adaptation, and there are even novels fleshing out the lore and history of this universe, but I mean, for me, I'm good. See, the thing is, if it's basically Fate but reskinned, then I'd rather just watch Fate. And if it's drastically different from Fate enough for it to be its own thing, then I'd rather just watch Fate. Not to say this is a completely unnecessary thing to have. Like I said at the beginning, I find all this like original concept stuff super fascinating, but to take it any further than that is basically just creating a whole new franchise. And I mean, if you want to do that, like, just do that. You don't have to call it Fate. So yeah, that's Fate Prototype. Again, it's only like 12-15 minutes, so I'm sure y'all can find it somewhere to watch on your own. And yeah, I'm supposed to rate these, right? 2 out of 5. I don't know. It's cool. It's interesting, but not really something you need to watch unless you're really curious about Ara Rin Tosaka, which, I mean, she's in there for like 2 seconds, so. The next Fate anime aired 2 years after Fate Zero in July 2013. 2013. What a year for the world of anime. Attack on Titan aired in April, starting its run as one of anime's most culturally dominant and financially successful franchises of that decade. Iconic rom-com franchises were either starting their runs or receiving sequel seasons, including Oragairu, Oremo, and The World Only God Knows. The second season of Monogatari was airing, and y'all know how I feel about that. Also, Kill la Kill started airing, and y'all know how I feel about that too. Here we go! All of these big things were happening in the anime world, and this was also about the time that anime really started having the cultural impact on the West that continues to the present time with, again, you know, shows like Attack on Titan blowing up and, you know, receiving mainstream attention. So what about the Fate franchise? What could they possibly have been cooking up in the Type Moon conference room? Ufotable had the reins on the anime and they killed it with Fate Zero, so what's next? Are they gonna remake the Fate route? Are we gonna see a full season of Unlimited Blade Works? Maybe a Ufotable Fate movie? I'm sure Ufotable had a lot of that in production back in 2013, but instead it was Silverlink that gave the world a dose of the Fate franchise that year, and what a dose it was. Yay, we can finally talk about Prisma Illya. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm literally like shaking and sweating, see?
What is that?
Prisma Illya. You could call it the black sheep of the Fate franchise, I guess. A lot of fans like to pretend it doesn't exist. It's like the creepy uncle that you don't invite to Thanksgiving dinner. And just like a creepy uncle, you might want to keep Prisma Illya away from the kids. But no, I'm gonna say straight up, I really like Prisma Illya. It's not my favorite thing in the Fate franchise. Not even close, but just watching it as its own thing is an incredibly fun experience if you ask me. Oh, also to be 100% transparent with y'all, I have seen like the first 2 seasons I think of Prisma Illya, so I'll admit I kind of skimmed through the stuff I've already seen when I was doing like the week-long binge, but the later seasons are shit that was completely new to me, so I definitely watched that all the way through.
What up, y'all? I just got back from brunch with one of the homies, and he was talking about, are you trying to go out later? You know, maybe to a bar or something so we could watch the NBA Finals. And I told him, no, I can't do that, friend of mine, because I have to go home to watch Prisma Illya for my YouTube video series that nobody will watch. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna watch Prisma Illya, and probably Fate Prototype too. And maybe I'll start Unlimited Blade Works, but we'll see. But that's my plan for today.
Oh my god, they're already wilding out on episode 1. I should have known. So, some background info. Prisma Illya is based on a manga with the same name that came out in 2007, and it is still in production to this day. It's set in an alternate universe to the mainline Fate Stay Night series, and it focuses on everybody's favorite legal loli Iliasfeel. Except she's not so legal in Prisma Illya. Okay, so Prisma Illya has 4 seasons and a couple of movies and OVAs that have aired over the past decade or so, and we're gonna go through all of it right here, right now. If you're rolling your eyes and skipping to the Unlimited Blade Works section, don't. A, because you're gonna fuck up the watch time on my video, and B, because you'll be missing out on one of the wildest anime rides I could think of for the Fate series. Just stick with it and keep an open mind. But getting into it, the world of Prisma Illya is a lot more familiar than the world of Fate Prototype. The first season introduces us to Illya, who in this universe lives with her adopted brother Shiro and their 2 caretakers. Kiritsugu and Irisfeel are also in this, but we won't see them until later. In this world, Illya goes from legal loli to actual loli as she's in elementary school with Taiga as her homeroom teacher and her group of friends who are all like all new original characters. For the most part, this world is a peaceful one. Magic exists and all that, and there was a Holy Grail War, as you know, we'll learn more about, but as far as our main cast goes, it's about as peaceful and slice of lifey as it gets. At least until the story kicks off when Rin and Luvia return to Japan from the clock tower in London. All of you Fate fans probably recognize Luvia from Hollow Atraxia, but here she is in Prisma Illya reprising her role as Rin's rival, complete with her famous drill hair and annoying laugh. They've been sent by the clock tower on a mission to retrieve class cards or servant cards, which are the replacement for heroic spirits in this show. Basically, these cards can be used to summon the essence of a heroic spirit to sort of possess the user, giving them the powers of said heroic spirit. However, due to reasons unknown at the time, the class cards have sort of been agitated or corrupted so that they instead summon a weaker shadow version of a heroic spirit that's completely mindless and berserk. In order to help them with this task, the clock tower has given Rin and Luvia wands that turn them into magical girls. Why? I mean, well, haven't you wanted to see Rin in a magical girl outfit? It's not just me, right? The only thing is, Rin and Luvia are complete clowns in this universe, so their sticks ditch them after being fed up with their goofiness. Rin's magical stick, named Ruby, finds Illya and gives her the once-in-a-lifetime chance to be a magical girl. All of you Madoka fans know where this one is going. I forgot how much they hoe Rin in this show. Like, it's funny, but don't disrespect my girl like that. Rin ain't no punk like that. This ain't my Rin. Hashtag not my Rin. Oh my god, I didn't realize they did this. Every Fate series has the famous "Are you my master?" shot. I guess that shit really is that iconic. They use it in everything. Since Ruby is like the worst character ever and doesn't want to cooperate with anyone, Rin tasks Illya with collecting the class cards in her place using her new magical girl powers. Shenanigans ensue. So that's the bare bones premise for Prisma Illya, right? Pretty much what you could expect from the title. I mean, if you saw this and instantly thought magical girls, you're not wrong. There are in fact magical girls. But weirdly enough, like I said, Prisma Illya is less Sailor Moon and more Madoka Magica, and I mean, you'll see what I mean later. But I already know many of you are probably like, what the fuck is this shit? So this is some bullshit. And to those people, I'd say A, fair, and B, you're no fun. This is a tangent, but I hate when people's first reaction to something weird is like, what? That's so dumb and weird. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm more of the type who sees something weird and I'm like, oh, that's weird. I wonder why it's like that. Let me check it out. I mean, if it turns out to be some bullshit, then okay, whatever. But if I end up liking it, then it's a W all around. This goes for things like trying weird new foods, watching weird movies, listening to weird music, and watching weird lolly ecchi scenes. Oh my god. Hey, yep. Hey, oh, okay. Oh nah, bro. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Hey, oh. Listen. Okay, you know what? Let's just address the elephant in the room right away. The underage, extremely problematic elephant in the room. While at its core, Prisma Illya is a fantasy action magical girl show, it does have certain other prominent elements to it. Yeah, I mean, what is there really to say? Okay, so obviously the real answer, jokes aside, is to not take any of this too seriously because it's a cartoon, it's just lines and ink on a screen, right? But of course, many people are still gonna be uncomfortable watching, and that is completely fair. It doesn't really bother me personally, but it definitely is a big reason why people tend to ignore this series or skip over it. Like, I get it. It isn't enough that it's a magical girl anime, which already turns a lot of people off because people think they're too cool for that stuff, you know, oh, I'm too macho to watch little girls fighting, so instead I'll watch my shonen anime with little boys fighting. But even if you can get past all of that, it adds this really weird ecchi element, and it's not just really weird, it's insanely graphic. Like, there are scenes in this show that would make high school DxD and like Shokugeki fans blush. So the question is, does this take away from the show? I guess it depends. To me, a lot of the ecchi stuff is played for laughs, and some of the jokes that they make are, you know, pretty funny, but also I'm not gonna sit here and with a straight face pretend that these scenes make the show better in any way, as if watching lollies make out is some form of high art that you need 200 IQ to understand. No. So if you're bothered by ecchi and all the lolly stuff, completely fair. I still think that there's a lot to enjoy in this show besides all of that, and if it doesn't bother you, that's cool too. It doesn't make you a pedo or anything, don't worry. Oh god, now that I think about it, it'd be hilarious if Twitter got a hold of this show. Like, you've seen how they did Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, so the reaction to Prisma Illya would be fucking apocalyptic. But anyway, back to talking about the actual show. While Rin takes Illya under her wing, Luvia takes a new girl named Miyu as her sort of apprentice. They team up and beat the shit out of Ryder because it's legally required for some version of Ryder to take a huge L in every Fate adaptation. A bunch of fun magical girl hijinks happen as Illya tries to collect all the class cards for Rin and Luvia, all while breaking through Miyu's Kudere shell to create those precious bonds of anime friendship. And then that's when we get to the juicy stuff. Illya and Miyu take on the most challenging servant so far, Caster, but manage to beat her in a pretty spectacular animated battle while using the powers of teamwork, believing in yourself, and giant laser beams fired out of satanic-looking circles. The whole fight is actually pretty cinematic, and there's a real sense of desperation and urgency as Miyu and Illya feel completely outmatched until they manage to rally together to get the win. Except, it's not over yet, because one more servant shows up. Hey, man. I love that she's basically Saber Alter in this. And what an entrance, too. She's definitely got that final boss energy. I mean, it wouldn't be Fate unless Saber showed up, right? Already battered and bruised from having to take on Caster, the gang has to now face the poster child of the Fate franchise as she shows up to cash in on her contractually obligated amount of screen time. Now our heroes are really fucked because Saber is of course one of the more powerful servants and everyone is low on morale and losing the will to fight. So then we get this great scene where Miyu and Illya realize that they can't beat Saber and opt to throw their magical sticks back to Rin and Luvia. Yes, dude! Here we go. This is the equivalent of that Thor Ragnarok scene. I can't beat you, but they can. Blessed Rin with cat ears. This show really has it all, for real. They knew this is what Fate fans were really fiending for. Heaven's Feels movies? I'm good on that. Give me magical cat girl Rin. It's all nice and epic and feel good and all that, but it's Saber, right? Of course she doesn't go down that easy. She fires off her noble Phantasm Excalibur and basically wipes our heroes out. Illya is the last one standing, and when all hope is lost, she installs her Archer card and becomes Fate Stay Night Archer while the Unlimited Blade Works music plays. Holy shit, it's so fucking cool. I'm sorry, I was hype as a bitch during this scene. Holy. I forgot how hyped this is. I legit cannot believe how exciting this fight scene is. There's no reason why this should be this good. And the music is good here too. Oh my god, let's go! Oh my god, why is this so good? Why is this the best thing ever right now? Am I having a fever dream? Watching this scene, and I guess this whole arc, is going to a restaurant and expecting McDonald's quality food, but instead getting a Michelin star meal. It's it's a blast of Fate fan service with incredible animation and music, and it's damn. All this in a magical girl show, how about that? So Illya manages to beat Saber, but passes out with no memory of how she was able to install the class card. Then we get an Evangelion arc, and I mean, it's insane that I'm even mentioning Evangelion alongside Prisma Illya, but it's basically the same shit, because Illya gives up being a magical girl after a traumatic fight with the assassin servant, where even Miyu tells her to quit for her own safety. But then they have to fight the Berserker card, which, side note, I wonder why they didn't give Illya Berserker as her main class card, because in Fate Stay Night that's who her servant is, but I mean, I get it. It's cool for her to be Archer as well, because I mean that's her brother, but I'm getting sidetracked again. Anyway, the season ends how you'd expect, with Illya finding her resolve and showing up at the last second to save Miyu, and they both beat Berserker's ass together. Yay, how exciting. All in all, it's a solid first season. I mean, it has its great moments, some surprising twists and turns, but at the end of the day, it's just a solid fighting magical girl show. But from season 2 onward is where it starts to get wild. So Prisma Illya 2-Way centers around a new character who is a darker skinned copy of Illya, unfortunately named Kuro, which, is about the appropriate amount of racism and colorism you can expect from Japan. It turns out that Kuro, who takes on the name Chloe von Einsburn, is a second personality that was sealed away by Irisfield and Kiritsugu into Illya. See, in the Prisma Illya universe, Illya was still meant to be a vessel for the Holy Grail, similarly to Fate Stay Night, but in this universe, she never needed to actually become the Grail, because, you know, it's peaceful and stuff. Thus, Irisfield decided to seal away Illya's knowledge and memories of the Grail War so that she could grow up as just a normal girl, except this sealed away essence would eventually manifest as Kuro. It's actually kind of dope because it explains all the weird power-ups Illya got in the first season, like when she was magically able to utilize the class card, the Archer class card, and how she had a much higher mana output than expected, so it all makes sense when you realize it was Kuro kind of poking her head out for the first time. So now that Kuro is her own person, she sets out to ruin Illya's life. And how does she do that, you ask? By sexually assaulting people at her school. Isn't anime great? The whole second season is basically just the gang trying to figure out what to do with Kuro up until she kind of dies, but doesn't really. Eventually some anime stuff happens where she realizes she wants to live her own life and everyone kind of accepts her as her own person. Yay, that wraps itself up nicely. Oh, except this lady shows up. This is so awkward doing the series like this where everything is in chronological order because Bazet is such an important character, and it's wild that the first time she's getting mentioned in this video series is during Prisma Illya. Okay, quick Cliff Notes, Spark Notes version. Bazet was supposed to be the original master of Lancers sent by the Clock Tower during Fate Stay Night. Here in Prisma Illya, she kind of serves the same function, except she's here to collect the class cards like everybody else. They have a long-winded anime fight and eventually agree on a truce once Rin reveals that there's an 8th class card out there that they need to work together to retrieve. And that's the end of season 2. Now we get into the 3rd season, appropriately titled 3-Way. Oh no, it's called 2-Way Hurts. I guess there's some meaning there that I'm unaware of, but it's very confusing. So like I said, prior to doing this binge, I'd only seen the first 2 seasons before this, so this was all new material for me. And I gotta tell y'all, I was super excited to see what exciting developments the plot would get into now that the dire threat of the 8th class card was revealed. What heart-pounding, edge-of-your-seat adventures will the crew get into? Oh my god, a summer break arc, what? Nothing has even happened yet, but I just feel like the FBI is waiting at my door, Jesus. I'm actually nervous something so out of pocket is gonna happen this season. Oh wait, hold up, is this Fahana? Yeah, I'd recognize the lead singer's voice anywhere. You know, for being just throwaway nobody characters created just for this niche spin-off, Illya's school friends are actually pretty fun to watch. Like, I low-key feel they could carry their own slice of life show, like on some K-On! Or Yuru Camp shit. Oh, okay, so we already gonna while out on episode 1, alright. How much of this can I even show? Like, kissing isn't necessarily 18 plus, right? Oh, Jesus, okay. They're doing more than kissing, never mind. You know what, I feel like I'm gonna need a little extra something while I'm watching this. Are y'all ready for the greatest comeback since Jesus Christ? Dun, 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 dun. Good to be back, right? I'm saying that like I don't drink out of this every day. Good to be back on camera, I guess I should say. So like the first half of the season is just like slice of life shenanigans while we wait for the location of the 8th class card to be revealed. We get a fun beach episode that I drank through. Wow, they really try to push the stereotypical flat-chested tsundere trope onto Rin in this show. We get a fun theme park adventure that I drank through. But don't they all fly? Why would this bother them? I mean, I know Miyu doesn't fly, but she's definitely engaged in aerial combat before. There's a festival episode too that I drank through. This is borderline offensive how dirty they do Rin in this show. As a certified Rin Tosaka stan, I'm canceling this show for being problematic. Like, the creepy lolly fan service, perfectly fine, but you've gone too far turning my girl Rin into comic relief.
I can excuse
creepy lolly fan service,
but I draw the line.
Turning my girl Rin into comic relief. And of course, just like anyone would expect, the lesbian lolly show has a problematic homophobic BL episode. Basically, one of Ilya's friends, Mimi, discovers that she's into BL, or boys love, which is basically just like homoerotic art or stories written for a horny female audience. Similarly to how one might create a lesbian Yuri show targeted towards a horny male audience. But I can't think of any shows like that off the top of my head. Mimi gets really into her new hobby but is afraid to come out to her friends, but of course they accept her anyway until she really comes out and says this. Oh, okay, interesting. So she's like legitimately lesbian. Wait, what the fuck? Why are they looking at her like... Huh? Was that crazy? They're looking at her like she said a slur. This is insane. I really don't like this episode. Yes. Of course, it's perfectly fine to have extremely graphic lesbian lolly scenes, but that's just a bunch of jokes, you know, right? No homo, am I right? We can't actually say we support same-sex relationships. That'd be against the Bible. And we all know Fate is a Christian-based anime. I think it's just best to forget that episode exists. So the season ends with a legitimately exciting fight against the 8th class card, which turns out to be, surprise, surprise, our boy Gilgamesh. I don't like how Luvia is getting this moment right now. I need Rin to do more cool shit. I'm actually hating right now. Oh, here we go. This is what I'm talking about, baby. Yes, dude. My favorite part of any Fate show is when Rin speaks fake German. Yo. Oh my god. Yay. This is actually so fire. The Trace on shit. She's using Archer's power with the unlimited blade works music. Oh my god, I love this OST. Is she shooting a mini Excalibur as an arrow? Nah, this is fire. I don't give a fuck. This is better than unlimited blade works. Of course, Gilgamesh wipes the floor with them because he's Gilgamesh, and they're all forced to retreat. Then they meet up with another character who unfortunately has to be introduced here instead of her actual mainstream appearance because of how these were chronologically released. Karin Hortensia, aka Kotomine Kirei's daughter, who in this show acts as Ilya's school nurse. Then they figure out that the Gilgamesh card can't be controlled because Gilgamesh is literally too alpha to be kept in a card, so his personality is split off into like a Shota version of himself, and he gets his dick grabbed by Ilya. He then reveals that Miyu is actually from another universe or another timeline in which she also is a vessel for the Holy Grail, similar to Ilya and Kuro. Fortunately, Ilya beats his ass using the incredibly complex technique of holding 2 magical sticks instead of 1. Oh my god, why is this actually kind of exciting? Like the music and everything? Hold on. This is insane, dude. This fight is literally Super Saiyan Ilya versus Shota Gilgamesh. Actually, not even Super Saiyan. This is like those old Sonic games where you turn into Super Sonic and fly around and fight a huge final boss. Okay, never mind. Maybe it is Super Saiyan. We're getting a beam clash. Not gonna lie, Quintet Fire is hard as fuck though. That's a 10 out of 10 attack name. So 2A Hers ends with Shota Gilgamesh being seemingly defeated by Ilya and life seemingly returning to normal, but not for long. Oh my god. What exciting twists and turns will the 4th season, confusingly titled 3-Ray, bring for our heroes? Oh, sorry, that's too far ahead. Basically, this season is the culmination of the show's overarching storyline. Since the beginning, we've wondered what the deal is with Miyu, right? Where's she really from? Why does Shiro remind her of her own brother? Why is she such a kudere? And now we get those answers as beings from Miyu's home universe snatch her back, and Ilya is transported with them into this new, weird, alternate universe timeline where there's a post-apocalyptic Fuyuki city. She meets this weirdo who only wears school gym clothes and also a host of new bad guys to tussle with. So here's the thing about season 4. This is where things really start to come together, right? This is where questions start being answered and we realize what this whole big lolly fest has really been about. And to me, this is like the weirdly enough, the beauty of Prisma Illya, because they really went ambitious with the plot. It could have just been goofy, slice of life, lolly fan service. And I mean, it is that, but it also has this overarching, well thought out story with twists and turns, and it's like, what the fuck? All this for a Fate spin-off? Jesus. We learned that in Miyu's home universe, the world is mana-starved, and because of it, all of humanity is at risk of dying out. Thus, the Ainsworth mage family wants to use the Holy Grail to prevent that from happening. Miyu is a vessel for the Holy Grail, so they kidnap Miyu. That's the overview. I won't spend too much time on the details because you can go watch it yourself, but I will say one of the highlights for me is the Shiro of this universe making like a big grand entrance during the final battle. Look at Shiro, man. So inspirational. Still wearing his old musty ass shirt too. What I do want to talk a little bit about though is the movie Oath Under Snow, or like Vow Under Snow, or Snow Vow, or something. I don't know what it's called. This movie feels much more like the Fate series you know and love. It's dark, gritty, and depressing, but it's still a Prisma Illya movie too. And watching this, like, you're thinking to yourself, damn, this is all really in the same story, in the same universe, and it was all planned out and linked together. It's surreal. I know this whole Prisma Illya series was a manga first, right? I never read it, I only watched the anime, so I'd like to know what the thought process was behind the creation of this series. Obviously it's a spin-off, right? And the sell for it is this whole, what if Illya was a magical girl in a more peaceful Fate world type of thing, right? Except then you look at the Oath Under Snow movie and the last 2 seasons of the show and you realize, wait, this is still like just as fucked up as Fate. Clearly they meant to do all this from the start because there's like a bunch of callbacks and foreshadowing the whole series. So it's like, did someone just sit down and say, I want to tell an alternate universe Fate story but disguise it as lolly fan service? Like, why? Do y'all see what I'm saying here? It's just so strange to think about the whole conception of the series. Like, what was the pitch? So I don't know, if someone could link me to some interviews that explain me the whole thing, or maybe I just need to read the manga, because I'm insanely curious as to the backstory behind Prisma Illya. Now back to looking at the movie, it's insane because it's like, what if Shiro became heroic spirit Emiya during the Holy Grail War and just killed all the other servants? I mean, that's basically the plot, right? In this alternate world that Miyu is from, she's Shiro's adopted sister and she's kidnapped by the Ainsworths, and Shiro has to fight the Holy Grail world like normal except with class cards in order to save her. Look, here goes Sakura already. She's really gonna be a big part of this movie, isn't she? Damn. I would say take a drink every time she simps for Shiro, but I'm kind of beyond faded, I'm not gonna lie already. Yo, Shinji looks badass in this movie. He reminds me of, who's the dude from League of Legends? Urgot, that's what he looks like. Huh? What? Excuse me? My boy Shinji. Dude, Shinji is the best character in Fate. Don't at me. That's my son. But see, this is dope, dude. Like, I would... Okay, and I was about to say I would watch a whole series about just this, but technically I am, because this is still, like, Prisma Illya. We get this crazy montage of a badass Shiro possessed by his future heroic spirit self, like, taking out every other master one-on-one, and it's like, this is an integral canon part of the same series that has scenes like this. And yet it all makes sense and it works. I don't know how, but all of Prisma Illya just works together when it shouldn't. Like, okay, you finish this movie off with Shiro fighting the Ainsworths and using the Grail to wish that Miyu would live in another world, find a peaceful world to live in, make lots of friends, and it loops back and ends with the first episode of Prisma Illya, and everything comes full circle, and it's legitimately emotional and cinematic, and you're like, this is a lolly fan service show. What is happening? I don't know, y'all. Prisma Illya is wild. I can't even say it's like good though, but I mean, despite that, everything works and is amazing. Watch Prisma Phantasm too. I watched it. the movie or OVA or whatever it is. That's worth watching too. It's funny. So yeah, that's Prisma Illya. I guess to summarize it in a nutshell, every character is gay and wants to fuck their siblings. There's a lot of cool fights. Also, Cat made Rin. Overall, a really well-made series, 4 out of 5. But anyway, enough talking about Illya. Finally, we get to the real start of the show, the Rin Tosaka route, aka Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, the Ufotable adaptation.
Ready or not, I shall come to take your life! Saber!
Except, it's not really the Rin route. Yeah, that's the twist. This is actually the Shiro Emiya route, as you find out watching the show. But yeah, Unlimited Blade Works. This came out during the winter 2014 anime season, and man, if you were around the anime community back then, you know how insane the hype for this show was. Obviously, Ufotable had the reins of this franchise at this point, and they did Fate Zero, which everyone loved, and the world was waiting for what was billed as a sequel to Fate Zero. And see, this is where the whole release order shenanigans come in. Despite knowing that Unlimited Blade Works was coming out after Fate Zero and that the general population wouldn't know that Fate Stay Night actually came first, Ufotable didn't create Unlimited Blade Works to be the sequel to Fate Zero that people thought it would be. Instead, they adapted this visual novel route as if it was its own starting point, which it is, and treated it like its own standalone story, which it is. It has the whole prologue from the visual novel, which explains the world and introduces us to all the Fate lore and stuff, and it generally operates as if Fate Zero doesn't exist. And this is what confused / upset more casual fans when it came out, because they were like, huh, this isn't like Fate Zero. Why are they in high school? What happened to Waver Velvet? Why don't we find out what happened to Sakura or Saber or anybody? And thus, this is the origin of the great Fate Watch Order debate. If someone started with Fate Zero as their entry point into the Fate franchise, Unlimited Blade Works would feel like an underwhelming and confusing sequel. However, if somebody starts with Unlimited Blade Works, it would spoil Fate Zero, and if you're a Ufotable Fate fan, this would be a huge no-no, because according to them, apparently Fate Zero is the best entry in the franchise. So I mean, you see how this all got so messy? New Ufotable fans were shitting on die-hard Fate Stay Night fans, and the visual novel fans were shitting on everyone. Oh, and I guess the Prisma Illya fans were somewhere in the corner jerking off to the Hot Springs OVA. But then it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this whole video series. It doesn't matter what you watch, just pick something. If you really are interested in Fate, you'll end up watching everything anyway, and you'll get the big picture like anybody else. But enough of that, now let's actually talk about Unlimited Blade Works. As mentioned, this is an adaptation of the Unlimited Blade Works route of Fate Stay Night, so all of the essential stuff stays the same, and the general structure isn't too different from the Fate route. The first episode is almost a movie-style prologue following Rin Tosaka, which is similar to how the visual novel starts. Once again, we get a battle at school between Archer and Lancer, and once again, Shiro summons Saber as his servant. Except wait, something's different this time. Huh? This isn't like the Fate Stay Night we saw before. What's going on? Oh yeah, the animation actually looks good now, that's what. Yeah, right off the bat, Ufotable came out with their balls on the table, showcasing their signature blend of 3D and 2D animation, and it looks stunning.
Go to hell!
Man, what I wouldn't give to have had this anime when I was like 14 years old. Like, can you imagine? It's great now that I'm 67, but as a kid, man, this shit would be life-changing. Some of y'all, like, young anime fans are lucky you have shit like this to grow up with. Okay, so the first real big divergence in the routes occurs during the fight with Illya and Berserker, right? And God, it's so weird seeing normal Illya after 4 seasons in a movie of magical girl Illya. In this route, Shiro uses a command spell to keep Saber from wounding Archer, so he's able to take on a much bigger role in the fight against Berserker. This is how I feel draining a long distance 3 at the YMCA. Sharpshooter type shit, bam.
You was not a hooper!
The biggest effect that this has is that Archer has more time to spend hanging around with Shiro, which of course is important because we need that quality character interaction, you know, now that we're done with Prisma Illya and don't have creepy lolly bathing scenes instead.
I'm going to make him suffer in Kiritsugu's place.
Oh, never mind, we still have those. The next big divergence happens after the Shinji Bounded Field arc, which ends with Ryder getting folded, as she usually does. The crew now faces Castor, who was able to steal Shiro's command seals and takes Saber as her own servant because, goddamn, we can't be deprived of Saber in that fucking weirdo fetish wedding dress. This, of course, is a big divergence from the Fate route because now Shiro can't have mushy-gushy bonding time with Saber anymore, so instead, he spends it with this girl. Oh wait, sorry, wrong route. You still have to suffer in this one, Sakura, sorry. I meant this girl. If you remember the terrible Unlimited Blade Works movie, you know that at this point, Archer betrays Rin and joins Caster's side, except, you know, it's actually impactful here because we spent 13 episodes with these characters instead of 20 minutes. Then we get to watch Shiro's class on how to pull a tsundere 101. Take notes, rom-com protagonists.
When I finally got around to talking to you, I fell for you even more.
Ooh,
So I just jumped down to help.
Shiro and Rin sitting in a tree. Fucking. Bro, I'm like curling my toes like a teenage girl watching Twilight right now. This is so cute. More things happen. People talk. People swing swords at each other. Illya gets her heart ripped out, RIP. There's a saber retrieval arc. Lancer joins the team. And then we finally arrive at the climax of this route. A big, exciting confrontation between Shiro and Archer, who is revealed to be a heroic spirit version of Shiro in the future. Although, if you're watching this video series, I've spoiled that a bunch of times by this point already. Sorry. So, let's talk about this. This is the thing, right? The Unlimited Blade Works route is essentially a conflict of ideology between Shiro and his older self, Archer. Shiro's whole thing is that he wants to be a hero of justice, and he wants to save and protect as many people as he can regardless of the cost to himself. Archer is the natural progression of this mentality, as he's someone who spent his whole life trying to reach this ideal, only to realize that he didn't have the capacity to do it, and that the whole thing is ridiculous and hypocritical, right? Yet he does it anyway. In the anime, this conflict is portrayed as a big epic fight between the two, with a bunch of fancy words and speeches being said while swords fly at each other and Saber watches on in the sideline for some reason. They fight for like 3 episodes and it all looks very nice and pretty, and eventually the whole thing is resolved when Shiro realizes, yeah, you're right, being a hero of justice is kind of dumb, but I'm gonna do it anyway. To me, this whole sequence falls flat for a couple reasons. And again, I hate to be that dude who's like, read the visual novel, it's better. But in this case, it actually is better in the visual novel. At least in my opinion. Believe it or not, it feels like the anime has more talking than the visual novel, and there's nothing more cringe-inducing to me than lofty dialogue. Especially since the anime leaves out a lot of the inner turmoil Shiro has about his whole hero of justice thing in the first place, so they kind of have to shove in exactly how he's feeling into this one sequence. In the visual novel, Shiro versus Archer is a brutal slogfest between two basically dying men that already acknowledge each other's point of view but can't really give up the fight. And while yeah, it looks pretty in the Ufotable version, it doesn't really make sense for Shiro to be backflipping all over the place like a Naruto character. To me personally, the Shiro Archer fight comes across as much more thoughtfully composed and paced in the visual novel. It's a back and forth fight with perspectives being switched until we get that big realization moment from Archer that's kind of missing or not really well implied in the anime. And that realization is that this isn't just a fight between Shiro and his future self, but it's also a fight between Archer and his past. A past that he's mostly forgotten about after years of wandering and torment. In contrast, the pacing in the anime is kind of like a slog to get through, with a bunch of, like I said, lofty dialogue. And the whole Avalon thing with Saber being shoehorned into, even though that's the wrong route for that. I will say though that the inclusion of Last Stardust is a huge plus, and that big moment of Shiro kind of stealing his resolve is very well done. I just wish we could have gotten that same aha moment for Archer. But anyway, once all of that is over, we get another spicy mana transfer scene, and then it's off to our regularly scheduled Fate Stay Night ending where we gotta fight Gilgamesh. Just Gilgamesh though, since Kirei is already dead by this point. Shiro busts out the good old Unlimited Blade Works in order to counter Gilgamesh's Gate of Babylon, and yay, the day is saved. Now we get to go to college in England, I guess. Yay, that's Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, the Ufotable version. Okay, but fuck all that. Now let's talk about the most important topic that we're gonna cover in this entire series. If you are new to this channel, you might not know that I hold the prestigious title of the #1 Rin Tosaka fan in the Western Hemisphere. I own posters, figurines, and yes, even a body pillow. I even once made a girl I was dating wear her hair up in twin tails, which, spoiler alert, it looks pretty dumb in real life. Sorry, Bella Porsche. In fact, as I was watching Unlimited Blade Works, I feel like I turned into Flight Reacts whenever he sees Steph Curry.
Look at Curry, man. Inspirational shit.
Oh my god, there she is. Look at Rin, dude. Look at Rin, man. Look, and there go Rin. Get her. But yeah, I figured now would be the best time to talk about her since, you know, The whole Unlimited Blade Works segment was focused on Shiro, despite it technically being Rin's route. Let's begin with a scientific analysis on what makes Rin Tosaka premium S-tier waifu material. After years of research and development, I've come up with a simple acronym with which one can objectively measure a character's waifu qualities in 4 categories. These categories are story, imagery, marriage, and personality. Together, they spell... Oh. Damn, I didn't even realize that. Let's test it on a benchmark waifu before applying it to Rin Tosaka. Here's Marin Kitagawa, a recent anime waifu that fans love to creepily salivate over. As you can see, her story ranking is a 3 out of 10. Although she's a main character, most of the plot-related things in the manga happen to Gojo. Imagery basically means how good her character design is, and I'd say Marin is a slight step above your average Gyaru design, so I'm gonna say 6 out of 10. But her various cosplays bump it up to a 7 out of 10. Marriage obviously refers to how wifeable a character is, because, you know, waifu. Marin would be cool to hang out with, but Gojo is clearly the better marriage material, so she ranks it at a 7 out of 10. As for personality, this is where Marin shines the most, as she steals the scene every time that she's on screen, so she's a 9 out of 10 here. Now, I'm going to crunch these numbers together using my advanced supercomputer to average out these ratings. Ta-da! Marin Kitagawa has a simp score of 6.5. Now that you know how it works, let's apply these rankings to Rin Tosaka. And keep in mind, this is completely objective and unbiased. As you can see, Rin Tosaka has a perfect 10 simp score, making her the GOAT anime waifu. I mean, come on guys, this is science. The evidence is right here. What do you want me to say? Okay, but real talk, Rin is great, right? You know, her design is cute and memorable, she's a badass, and she's like the poster child for her archetype, the tsundere. In fact, I would argue that Rin Tosaka is the GOAT tsundere. See, the thing is, too many tsundere characters have too much of one aspect. Usually it's too much sun. Asuka, too much sun. Taiga, too much sun. Vegeta, too much sun. Rin is actually pretty dere a lot of the time, and the times that she does act cold and sun, it feels pretty reasonable and grounded. Instead of feeling cartoony or even just straight up mean, she feels like a perfectly balanced tsundere, as all things should be. But in all seriousness, I think it's important to note how crucial of a character she is, at least to the mainline Fate Stay Night series. I mean, in the Unlimited Blade Works route, you could argue that she plays the role of deuteragonist. Obviously, the big character arc and story focuses on Shiro, but you gotta admit that a big part of that route is also Rin's relationship with both Shiro and Archer. She also acts as our exposition dump as far as learning about the lore and world of Fate, and she's also an action heroine, you know, and she plays an active and useful role in battle. Really, she's just a likable ass character. Even going back to the 2006 Fate Stay Night, she's got a lot of funny, snarky lines, she's clever and resourceful, and of course, it's very cute to see her flustered.
好きって今はそういう話をしてる場合じゃないけど聞いてあげるぐらいなら構わないというか
And obviously I don't want to get too into it yet, but we see Rin in a lot more than just the mainline Fate series. And I mean, if you're a new or a casual fan of Fate, you may not know that this series follows her well into her college years and adulthood, so there's plenty of content to be had if you are a fellow Tosaka enjoyer. But yeah, enough of that tangent. Ufotable's Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works overall is an incredibly beautiful adaptation, arguably the most famous adaptation, and to some even the best adaptation. As for me, I mean, y'all heard what I was saying. I think it's just fine as far as an adaptation goes. I think once in a video, I don't remember when, I called Unlimited Blade Works a straight up bad adaptation, but I think I was being a little harsh there. It's definitely not bad. I think for sure it misses a lot of important elements from the visual novels, and its structure and pacing are definitely worse, but then, you know, I gotta think 90% of Fate fans aren't gonna give a fuck, especially if they're anime only. If you look at this as a standalone anime, I'd say even remove it from Fate Zero and look at it as its own thing, I think it's a perfectly fine show, so I'd give it like a 3.5 out of 5. Ooh, yeah, decimal ratings. How crazy. If you are new to this series, I'd say this is a perfectly fine place to start watching. Fuck what everyone else tells you. And if you are someone that wants the quintessential Fate experience, this is probably the adaptation that you want to watch. Hello, future Damian, back again to tell you that this video is ending, but you should like, subscribe, hit the notification button for part 3, where I'll talk about Fate Apocrypha and whatever else I have time to talk about without making the video 3 hours long. All right, that's the video. Peace.